On the distant planet of Xarion, the skies were always a brilliant shade of blue, and the forests were full of towering trees and strange, colorful plants. Xarion was a beautiful place, but it was hiding a serious problem. The alien people of Xarion had a terrible secret. Many of the female aliens, known as Xarilians, were falling into a deep, dangerous sleep. This sleep was not ordinary. It was a magical curse that made them inactive, and without a cure, it led to their death. This condition was becoming more common, and the Xarilian society was in a state of panic. Lyra, a young Xarilian girl, lived with her family in a small, cozy home on the edge of a vibrant forest. She was excited and nervous because she was approaching a significant age. On Xarion, when a Xarilian turned 18, she had to undergo a ritual called the clap to prove she was strong enough to avoid the deadly sleep. This ritual was seen as the only way to ensure her survival. Lyra's heart raced as she walked to the central square, where the elders of her village were holding an important meeting. She could see the worried faces of her fellow villagers as they gathered around. The elders spoke in serious tones, discussing the increasing number of girls who had fallen into the deep sleep. The elders often talked about the clap, a mysterious ceremony that was said to restore life and prevent the deadly sleep. However, the ritual was shrouded in secrecy. No one knew exactly what it involved, only that it was crucial for survival. Lyra's mother, Ilara, was sitting in the corner, her face lined with worry. She had already lost one daughter to the curse, and the thought of losing Lyra was unbearable. Ilara hugged Lyra tightly and whispered, "Be strong, my dear. The ritual is our only hope." Despite her mother's comforting words, Lyra felt a wave of fear and doubt. She had heard stories about the ritual, but no one knew much about what really happened. The ceremony was said to be a test of strength and willpower, but there were rumors that it was not always successful. Some girls had tried the ritual and still fell into the deep sleep. As Lyra approached the meeting, she noticed a group of alien scientists arriving from a distant planet. These humans were known for their advanced technology and their desire to help the Xarilians. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. Could these humans offer a different solution to the problem that had plagued their society for so long? The humans set up their equipment in the center of the village. They were kind and efficient, and their technology was impressive. They began examining the condition that caused the Xarilians to fall into the deep sleep. Lyra watched them with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. She overheard one of the scientists saying, "We believe there might be a scientific way to understand and possibly cure this condition. We need to study it closely." This news gave Lyra a glimmer of hope. If the humans could find a solution, it might mean she wouldn't have to face the ritual. But there were many questions and uncertainties. Could these strange visitors really help? And if they did, would the elders and her community accept their findings? The day of the ritual was approaching quickly. Lyra tried to focus on her studies and her daily tasks, but her mind was always on the upcoming ceremony and the possibility of an alternative solution. She felt torn between following the old traditions and hoping for a new scientific breakthrough. As the sun set over Xarion, the village was bathed in the warm, golden light. The air was filled with the sounds of worried conversations and the occasional hopeful laugh. Lyra knew that the coming days would be crucial. She had to decide whether to trust the ancient ritual or to put her faith in the new technology brought by the humans. The weight of the decision rested heavily on her shoulders. She knew that whatever choice she made would affect not just her own future, but the future of her people. Lyra felt a deep sense of responsibility and uncertainty as she faced the most important decision of her life. The Xarilians continued to hope for a solution, and Lyra's heart was filled with a mix of fear and hope. She knew that the future of her world might depend on her actions and the choices she would make in the coming days. The ritual's meaning. The sun rose over Xarion, casting long shadows over the village as the day began. Lyra woke up early, her mind racing with thoughts about the upcoming ritual and the strange new technology brought by the human scientists. Determined to understand more, she decided to visit the village's old library, a place filled with ancient books and scrolls about Xyrillian history and traditions. The library was a large, stone building with tall, dusty shelves that seemed to reach the sky. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of old paper and ink. Lyra made her way to the back of the library, where she found the section on Xyrillian rituals. She picked up a worn, leather-bound book and began to read. The book described the clap in detail, but its explanations were vague and filled with strange, ancient terms. It said that the ritual was meant to awaken the life force within the Xyrillian and ensure her survival. But there was little information about how or why it worked, or if it really did work at all. As Lyra flipped through the pages, she came across an old legend. It told the story of a great Xyrillian warrior who had saved his people from a terrible curse long ago. According to the legend, the warrior had performed the ritual and gained incredible strength and vitality. The story was inspiring, but Lyra found it hard to believe that something so ancient could help her in the modern world. Feeling frustrated, Lyra decided to visit the human scientists at their temporary lab. The lab was a fascinating place filled with shiny equipment and advanced technology. The scientists were busy working on their research, and Lyra watched them from a distance, curious about their methods. One of the scientists, Dr. Markham, noticed Lyra's interest and approached her. "Hello, Lyra. I see you're interested in what we're doing here," he said with a friendly smile. Lyra nodded. "Yes, I am. I've been reading about our ritual, and I'm trying to understand how it works. Can you tell me more about what you're studying?" Dr. Markham nodded and led Lyra to a large screen displaying complex data and diagrams. "We're trying to understand the biological factors that cause the deep sleep in Xyrillians. We believe that there might be a way to help without relying on the ritual." Lyra looked at the screen, her eyes wide with amazement. The data was difficult to understand, but it seemed to show that the scientists were making real progress. "Do you think you can find a cure?" "We're hopeful," Dr. Markham said, "but we need more time and research. The ritual has been part of your culture for so long that it's hard to change people's beliefs. We want to find a solution that will make a real difference." Lyra was filled with a mix of hope and doubt. She had grown up hearing stories about the ritual and its importance, but she had never truly understood it. Now she was beginning to see that there might be another way to solve the problem. Later that day, Lyra met with some of the village elders. They were discussing the upcoming ritual and how they would prepare for it. The elders were wise and respected by all, but their strict adherence to tradition sometimes made it hard for them to accept new ideas. Lyra took a deep breath and spoke up. "I've learned more about the ritual and the work the humans are doing. It seems like they might be able to help us without the need for the ritual." The elders looked at her with surprise. "The ritual has been a part of our culture for generations. It's what keeps our people strong," Elder Renar said. "How can you question something that has been trusted for so long?" "I'm not questioning our traditions," Lyra replied. "I just want to understand if there is a better way. The scientists are making progress, and their technology might offer us a new solution." The elders were silent for a moment, considering Lyra's words. Finally, Elder Renar spoke again. "We will listen to what the scientists have to say. But remember, our traditions have deep roots. Change is not always easy." Lyra nodded, feeling both relieved and anxious. She knew that convincing the elders and her community to accept new ideas would be a challenge, but she was determined to explore every possibility to save her people. As night fell over Xarion, Lyra returned to her home, her mind still buzzing with thoughts. She felt a growing sense of responsibility, knowing that the decisions she made in the coming days would affect not only her own life, but the lives of many others. In the quiet of her room, Lyra gazed out at the stars, feeling a mix of hope and fear. The path ahead was uncertain, but she was ready to face it. The future of Xarion, and her own future, depended on finding the right balance between tradition and progress. Meeting the humans. The following morning, Xarion's central square was buzzing with activity. The human scientists had set up a larger and more impressive lab, filled with strange machines and gadgets. The excitement among the Xarillians was palpable. Many people had never seen such advanced technology before and were eager to learn more. Lyra walked to the lab, her heart pounding with anticipation. She was determined to understand what the humans were doing and how they might help her and her people. As she approached, she saw a group of scientists working diligently on their equipment. Their faces were focused and serious, but they seemed to welcome the curiosity of the Xarillians. Dr. Markham, the scientist Lyra had spoken with before, saw her coming and waved her over. "Good morning, Lyra. It's nice to see you again. Are you ready for a tour of our lab?" Lyra smiled nervously and nodded. "Yes, I am. I want to understand more about what you're working on and how it might help us." Dr. Markham led Lyra through the lab, explaining the various machines and their functions. "This is our bioscanner," he said, pointing to a large device with glowing lights and a screen. "It helps us analyze biological samples to understand what's causing the deep sleep in Xarillians." Lyra watched in awe as the scanner beeped and displayed colorful graphs and data. "It looks very advanced. How does it work?" Dr. Markham smiled. "The scanner examines the cells in your body and looks for any irregularities. We're hoping to find a pattern that will explain why some Xarillians fall into the deep sleep." Lyra was impressed. She had never seen anything like it before. "And what about this machine?" she asked, pointing to another device that looked like a large metal box with tubes and wires. "That's our environmental simulator," Dr. Markham explained. "It lets us create different conditions to see how they affect the Xarillian biology. We're trying to find out if certain environmental factors play a role in the deep sleep." Lyra nodded, trying to take in all the information. She was excited about the potential for a new solution, but also worried about how her people would react to this new approach. As she continued to explore the lab, Lyra noticed a group of Xarillian girls watching the humans from a distance. They looked curious, but also anxious. Lyra approached them and said, "Are you here to see what the humans are doing?" One of the girls, named Nira, nodded. "Yes, we're all worried about the ritual. It's strange to see these new machines and not know if they can really help us." Lyra sighed. "I know how you feel. I'm also worried. But I think we should give the scientists a chance. They might be able to find a way to help us without relying on the ritual." Nira and the others looked thoughtful but remained unsure. "It's hard to trust something so different from what we've always known," Nira said. Lyra agreed. "It is. But sometimes we have to take a leap of faith and see if there's a better way." Just then, Dr. Markham called out, "Lyra, we're about to start a new round of tests. Would you like to observe?" Lyra eagerly accepted the invitation and followed Dr. Markham to a section of the lab where a group of scientists were preparing samples. The samples were taken from Xarillians who had recently fallen into the deep sleep. The scientists carefully placed them into the bioscanner and watched the results on the screen. Dr. Markham explained, "We're trying to find out if there's a specific trigger or pattern in these samples that could give us clues about the condition." As the data appeared on the screen, Lyra noticed a complex pattern of peaks and valleys. The scientists seemed focused and excited. Dr. Markham pointed to a specific part of the data. "This section shows some unusual activity. We think it might be related to the deep sleep." Lyra's curiosity grew. "What does it mean?" "We're not sure yet," Dr. Markham replied. "But it's a start. We need more data and analysis to understand it fully." The hours passed quickly as Lyra watched the scientists work, their dedication and skill evident in every movement. She felt a growing sense of hope that the humans might be able to help. But she also knew that convincing her people to accept this new approach would be a significant challenge. As the day came to an end, Lyra said goodbye to Dr. Markham and the other scientists. She walked back to her home, her mind filled with thoughts about the lab and the potential for a new solution. She was determined to help her people understand and accept the new possibilities. That evening, Lyra gathered with her family and friends to discuss the day's events. She told them about the machines and the progress the scientists were making. Her family listened intently, their faces a mix of hope and skepticism. Ilara, Lyra's mother, said softly, "It's hard to believe that something so new could replace our traditions. But if there's a chance for a better future, we should consider it." Lyra nodded, feeling the sense of responsibility. She knew that the coming days would be crucial in determining the future of her people. The choice between tradition and progress was not an easy one, but she was ready to face it. As she looked out at the stars that night, Lyra felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was determined to find a way to help her people, whether through ancient rituals or new technology. The future of Xarion depended on it. Facing the choice. The days passed quickly, and the day of the ritual was approaching. Lyra felt a mix of anxiety and determination. She had seen the potential of the human scientists' work and hoped it might provide an alternative to the ancient ritual. Yet she knew that many in her village still held strong to their traditions. On the morning of the ritual, Xarion's central square was filled with people. They gathered to witness the important ceremony and show their support for those who would undergo it. The square was decorated with colorful banners and lights, creating a festive atmosphere despite the seriousness of the occasion. Lyra arrived early to observe the preparations. The elders were busy setting up the ceremonial area, where the ritual would take place. They wore their finest robes and spoke in hushed tones, reflecting the gravity of the event. Lyra's mother, Ilara, found her among the crowd and embraced her. "I'm so proud of you, Lyra. You've been so brave throughout this process." "Thank you, Mother," Lyra said softly. "I hope we can find a way to help our people without the ritual." As the time for the ritual drew near, the villagers started to gather in a large circle around the ceremonial area. The atmosphere was filled with a mixture of excitement, hope, and nervousness. Lyra noticed that many of her friends were among those who would participate in the ritual. They looked both anxious and resolute. Suddenly, the human scientists arrived at the square, their presence drawing curious glances from the Xarilians. Dr. Markham approached Lyra, looking concerned. "We've made some progress with our research," he said, "but we need more time to be sure about our findings. It's difficult to change long-standing traditions, and we understand the importance of this ritual for your people." Lyra nodded. "I understand. I wish there was more time to explore both options. I don't want to see anyone put at risk, but I also want to honor our traditions." Dr. Markham looked thoughtful. "Perhaps there's a way to combine the old and the new. If we can show the effectiveness of our research, it might help convince the elders to consider it." Lyra agreed. "I'll do my best to talk to them. Maybe if they see that the new approach has real potential, they will be more open to it." As the ritual began, the elders led the participants to the ceremonial area. The ritual was a series of ancient chants and movements meant to awaken the life force within the Xarilians. The participants stood in a line, each one preparing for their turn. Lyra watched with a heavy heart. She knew how important this ritual was to her people, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there might be a better way. The human scientists had made real progress, and she hoped that their work would provide a viable alternative. In the midst of the ceremony, Lyra stepped forward and addressed the crowd. Her voice was steady but full of emotion. "I know how important this ritual is to our people. It has been a part of our culture for generations, but we also have new information that could help us." The villagers murmured among themselves, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Elder Renar stepped forward and raised his hand for silence. "What new information are you speaking of, Lyra?" Lyra took a deep breath. "The human scientists have been working hard to understand the condition that causes the deep sleep. They believe they might have found a scientific way to help us. I know it's hard to accept something so different, but I think we owe it to ourselves to explore all options." Elder Renar looked at Lyra with a stern expression. "Our traditions are deeply rooted in our culture. It is not easy to change what has been followed for so long." Lyra nodded. "I understand. But I also believe that if there's a chance to save lives and improve our future, we should consider it." The crowd was silent, and the tension was palpable. The villagers whispered among themselves, discussing Lyra's words. Some were hesitant, while others seemed intrigued by the possibility of a new solution. Dr. Markham stepped forward, holding a data tablet with information about their research. We have preliminary results that show promise. We need more time to complete our study, but we believe it could offer a real solution to the deep sleep condition. Elder Renar studied the tablet and then looked at the crowd. We will consider this new information, but for today we must complete the ritual as planned. Afterward, we will discuss the possibilities further. Lyra felt a mix of relief and frustration. At least the elders were willing to consider the new approach, but it was difficult to wait. She hoped that the scientists' research would prove successful and convince the villagers to accept a new way forward. As the ritual continued, Lyra stood by her friends, offering them support and encouragement. She watched as each participant went through the ceremony, their faces reflecting a range of emotions. The ritual was an important part of their culture, but Lyra knew that change was also necessary. The day ended with a sense of uncertainty. Lyra returned to her home, her mind filled with thoughts about the future. She hoped that the discussions with the elders would lead to a new understanding and a better way to help her people. As she lay in bed that night, Lyra looked out at the stars and thought about the choices ahead. The balance between tradition and progress was delicate, but she was determined to find a way to guide her people toward a brighter future. Testing the technology. The following week was a whirlwind of activity. The human scientists worked tirelessly to refine their technology, while the Xarions waited with bated breath. The elders had agreed to allow some testing of the new technology, but it was clear they were still hesitant. Lyra hoped that the tests would demonstrate the value of the new approach and convince everyone of its potential. Dr. Markham and his team set up a new testing area in the heart of Xarion. The location was chosen to be accessible to the villagers, who were invited to observe the process. The setup included advanced medical equipment and a control room where the data would be analyzed. On the day of the testing, the atmosphere was tense. A crowd of Xarions gathered around the testing area, their curiosity mingling with anxiety. Lyra arrived early to help with the preparations. She checked in with Dr. Markham, who was busy making final adjustments to the equipment. "Good morning, Lyra," Dr. Markham said, his face showing signs of fatigue but determination. "We're ready to begin the testing. We have a few volunteers from the village who have agreed to participate." Lyra nodded. "I'm ready. I've been talking to the villagers, and they're eager to see how this technology works." Dr. Markham smiled. "Great. Let's get started." The volunteers were led into the testing area, where they were greeted by the scientists. Each volunteer was given a brief explanation of the procedure and was asked to lie down on a padded examination table. The equipment around them hummed softly, and the air was filled with a sense of anticipation. Lyra watched from a designated observation area with the other villagers. The scientists began by using a device called the neuroanalyzer to scan the volunteers' brain activity. The device was a sleek, silver helmet with sensors that gently touched the volunteers' heads. Dr. Markham explained, "This device will help us measure the brain's responses and identify any irregularities. We're looking for patterns that might indicate the cause of the deep sleep." The first round of scans began, and the room fell silent except for the soft beeping of the machines. Lyra's heart raced as she watched the data appear on the screens. The scientists were focused, studying the results carefully. After a few minutes, Dr. Markham looked up and addressed the crowd. "We've completed the initial scans. The data we're seeing is intriguing. We're starting to identify some patterns that could be related to the deep sleep condition." Lyra felt a surge of hope. She knew that proving the technology's effectiveness could be a turning point for her people, but she also knew that the results needed to be convincing to gain full acceptance. The testing continued throughout the day, with multiple volunteers participating. Each scan provided more data, and the scientists worked diligently to analyze it. Lyra walked among the volunteers, offering encouragement and support. She could see the mixture of hope and skepticism in their eyes. As the day drew to a close, the scientists began to compile their findings. Dr. Markham and his team gathered the data and prepared a summary report. Lyra joined them in the control room, eager to hear the results. Dr. Markham turned to Lyra with a serious expression. "We've gathered a lot of information today. The preliminary results show that there are some consistent patterns in the brain activity of those who experience the deep sleep. We're hopeful that these findings will help us develop a targeted treatment." Lyra felt a sense of relief. "That's good news. How soon can we expect to see more concrete results?" Dr. Markham nodded. "It will take some time to fully analyze the data and develop a treatment plan. We're also working on a way to validate our findings with additional tests. But we're making progress." Lyra thanked Dr. Markham and the scientists for their hard work. She knew that the coming weeks would be crucial in determining the future of the new technology and its acceptance by the Xarilians. As the sun set, Lyra walked through the village, reflecting on the day's events. The testing had provided valuable information, but the real challenge was still ahead: convincing the villagers and the elders to trust the new approach. The next day, Lyra held a meeting with the villagers to share the results of the testing. She explained the findings in simple terms, highlighting the progress made and the potential benefits of the technology. "The tests have shown that the new technology is making progress," Lyra said. "The scientists have identified some patterns that could lead to a solution for the deep sleep condition. We need to give them time to develop a treatment, but we should be hopeful." The villagers listened intently, their expressions a mix of hope and uncertainty. Some were excited about the possibility of a new solution, while others remained cautious. One of the villagers, Jarek, spoke up. "It's good to see that there's progress being made, but we must remember that our traditions are important too. We need to balance the old and the new." Lyra nodded in agreement. "I understand. We must respect our traditions, but we also need to consider new possibilities that can help us." As the meeting concluded, Lyra felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that the journey ahead would be challenging, but she was determined to see it through. The future of her people depended on finding a way to blend tradition with progress, and she was ready to lead the way. A breakthrough. The weeks following the initial testing were filled with anticipation and hard work. The human scientists continued to analyze the data and refine their technology. Meanwhile, the Xarilians watched closely, their hope growing as they awaited more concrete results. Lyra was deeply involved in the process, balancing her duties as a liaison between the scientists and the villagers. She frequently visited the lab, where the scientists worked long hours to understand the patterns they had discovered. One morning, as Lyra entered the lab, she was greeted by Dr. Markham, who looked both tired and excited. "Lyra, we've made a significant breakthrough," he announced. Lyra's heart raced with excitement. "What have you found?" Dr. Markham led her to a large screen displaying a series of graphs and charts. "We've been analyzing the data from the scans and tests, and we've identified a specific neurological pattern that seems to be linked to the deep sleep condition." Lyra leaned closer to the screen, her eyes scanning the data. "What does this pattern mean?" Dr. Markham explained. "The pattern indicates a disruption in certain brain functions that may be causing the deep sleep. We believe we can develop a treatment that targets these disruptions and potentially prevents or reverses the condition." Lyra's eyes widened. "That's incredible. How soon can you start testing this treatment?" Dr. Markham nodded. "We're already working on a prototype of the treatment. We need to conduct further tests to ensure its effectiveness and safety, but we're optimistic." Lyra felt a surge of hope. This could be the solution we've been waiting for. "How can I help?" Dr. Markham smiled. "We need volunteers for the next round of tests. If you can help us find willing participants, it would greatly accelerate our progress." Lyra agreed enthusiastically and immediately began reaching out to the villagers. She explained the breakthrough and asked for volunteers to participate in the next round of testing. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Many Xarilians were eager to be a part of the solution, motivated by the hope of ending the deep sleep condition. As the testing day approached, Lyra and the scientists prepared for the procedure. The new treatment involved a non-invasive device designed to stimulate specific brain areas. The device was connected to a series of sensors that monitored the brain's responses in real time. When the day of testing arrived, the lab was filled with a sense of excitement and nervousness. Volunteers were greeted by the scientists and given detailed instructions about the procedure. Each participant was carefully connected to the device, and the room was filled with the soft hum of machinery. Lyra watched from the observation area, her heart pounding with anticipation. The scientists carefully monitored the data as the treatment began. The device emitted gentle pulses, designed to stimulate the brain without causing discomfort. Hours passed as the treatment was administered to each volunteer. Lyra saw the concentration on the scientists' faces and felt a growing sense of optimism. The initial results seemed promising, but they needed to be carefully analyzed before any conclusions could be drawn. Finally, Dr. Markham turned to Lyra with a look of cautious excitement. "We've completed the treatment for all volunteers. The initial data is looking very positive. We've seen significant changes in the brain activity patterns that match the disruptions we identified earlier." Lyra's eyes shone with hope. "That's amazing news. What happens next?" Dr. Markham replied, "We'll need to continue monitoring the participants over the next few weeks to see how they respond to the treatment. If the results continue to be positive, we can move forward with a broader application of the treatment." Lyra nodded, feeling a sense of relief. "Thank you for all your hard work. I'll make sure the villagers know about the progress." As the testing concluded, Lyra spoke with the volunteers, reassuring them and thanking them for their participation. Many of them felt hopeful and eager to see the results of the treatment. That evening, Lyra held another meeting with the villagers to update them on the progress. She shared the news about the breakthrough and the positive results from the initial tests. "The scientists have made a major breakthrough," Lyra announced. "They've identified a pattern in the brain activity and developed a treatment that shows great promise. We need to continue supporting this effort and be patient as we wait for further results." The villagers responded with a mixture of excitement and cautious optimism. Many expressed their gratitude to Lyra and the human scientists for their dedication and hard work. Jarek, one of the villagers, spoke up. "This is incredible news. It's clear that we're making progress, but we must remain patient and support the scientists as they continue their work." Lyra agreed. "Yes, patience is important. We're on the brink of a major breakthrough, and our support can make a difference." As the meeting ended, Lyra felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. The journey was far from over, but the progress made so far was a significant step toward a brighter future for her people. That night, Lyra looked out at the stars, reflecting on the challenges and triumphs of the past weeks. She felt grateful for the support of the villagers and the hard work of the scientists. With each passing day, the possibility of a new solution seemed more within reach. Lyra was ready to continue her role as a bridge between tradition and progress, guiding her people through this transformative time. The breakthrough was a beacon of hope, and she was determined to see it through to its full potential. Ritual Day. The long-awaited day had arrived. It was Ritual Day, a significant event in the Xarilian calendar. This year, however, the ceremony was infused with new hope and tension. After weeks of testing and breakthroughs, the villagers were eager to see if the new technology could offer an alternative to their ancient traditions. Early in the morning, Xarion Central Square was filled with a mix of excitement and nervous energy. The area was beautifully decorated with colorful banners and flowers, as it was on every ritual day. But today, there was an added sense of anticipation as the new technology would be showcased alongside the traditional ceremony. Lyra arrived at the square, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope and anxiety. She was there to support the human scientists and to help with the transition to the new approach. She wore a ceremonial robe, but her thoughts were focused on the future and the impact of the day's events. Dr. Markham and his team were setting up their equipment near the ceremonial stage. They were busy connecting various devices and preparing for the demonstration. Lyra approached them, her face showing both determination and concern. "Good morning, Dr. Markham," Lyra said. "How are things going?" Dr. Markham looked up from his work, his face a mix of fatigue and optimism. "Everything is ready. We'll be demonstrating the new technology today. I hope it proves effective and helps us make a lasting impact." Lyra nodded. "I hope so too. I've been speaking with the villagers, and they're eager to see the results." As the sun rose higher in the sky, the villagers began to gather in the square. The air was filled with the sounds of chatter and the aroma of festive foods. Despite the festive atmosphere, there was a palpable tension as everyone awaited the ceremony's start. The elders gathered at the ceremonial stage, dressed in their finest robes. Elder Renar, the leader of the council, took his place at the center of the stage. He looked out at the crowd, his expression serious but hopeful. The traditional ritual was about to begin. Lyra stood near the stage, watching as the ceremony unfolded. The elders began the traditional chants and movements, performing the ritual as they had done for generations. The participants, selected for the ceremony, stood in a line, ready to take their place in the time-honored tradition. As the ritual progressed, the air was filled with the familiar chants and rhythmic movements. The villagers watched with respect and anticipation, their eyes fixed on the stage. Lyra observed the scene, her thoughts constantly shifting between the old ways and the new possibilities. After the traditional portion of the ritual was complete, it was time for the demonstration of the new technology. Dr. Markham stepped forward, addressing the crowd with a calm but firm voice. "Thank you all for your patience. Today we will show you the progress we've made with the new treatment. We believe it could offer a significant improvement for those affected by the deep sleep condition." The crowd murmured with interest. Lyra could see the curiosity and hope in their eyes. Dr. Markham continued, explaining the technology and how it worked. The scientists set up their equipment on the stage, showcasing the device that had shown such promising results. Lyra introduced the first volunteer for the demonstration. A young Xarion named Kale stepped forward, his face a mix of nervousness and determination. He was one of the volunteers who had participated in the earlier tests and had agreed to be part of the demonstration. Dr. Markham and his team carefully attached the device to Cal's head. The device emitted soft pulses, designed to stimulate specific brain areas. The scientists monitored the data on their screens, their faces focused and serious. Lyra watched from the side, her heart racing. She knew that the success of this demonstration was crucial. If the new technology worked as hoped, it could change everything for her people. As the treatment continued, the scientists analyzed the data and communicated with each other in hushed tones. The crowd watched with bated breath, their eyes fixed on the stage. The familiar sounds of the traditional ritual were replaced by the soft hum of the technology. After a few tense minutes, Dr. Markham addressed the crowd again. "We've completed the treatment for Kel. The preliminary results are very promising. We're seeing positive changes in his brain activity that suggest the treatment is working." The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers filled with a mix of relief and excitement. Lyra felt a wave of emotion wash over her. The demonstration had been a success, and the new technology seemed to be making a real difference. As the ceremony came to a close, the villagers gathered around Dr. Markham and his team to express their gratitude. The atmosphere was one of celebration and hope. The traditional ritual had been honored, and the new technology had shown its potential. Lyra joined Dr. Markham and the scientists, sharing in the sense of accomplishment. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that they had taken a significant step toward improving the lives of her people. As the sun set and the festivities continued, Lyra reflected on the day's events. It had been a day of tradition and innovation, a blend of the old and the new. She knew that the journey was far from over, But the success of the demonstration was a crucial milestone. Lyra looked out at the crowd, her heart filled with hope for the future. The path ahead would be challenging, but she was ready to continue guiding her people through this transformative time. The breakthrough in technology was a beacon of progress, and she was determined to see it through to its full potential. New Hope. The day after Ritual Day, the mood in Xarion was one of cautious optimism. The success of the demonstration had sparked a renewed sense of hope among the villagers. The new technology had shown promising results, and many believed that it could bring an end to the deep sleep condition that had long plagued their people. Lyra woke up early, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. She knew that the coming days would be crucial in determining the technology's future. Dr. Markham and his team would be analyzing the data from the demonstration and preparing for the next steps. Lyra planned to meet with them and discuss how to move forward. She made her way to the lab, where the scientists were already hard at work. The lab was a hive of activity, with team members reviewing data and discussing their findings. Dr. Markham was at the center of the commotion, his face reflecting the intensity of the task at hand. "Good morning, Dr. Markham," Lyra said as she entered the lab. Dr. Markham looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Lyra. We've been analyzing the data from yesterday's demonstration. The results are very encouraging." Lyra's heart leaped. "That's wonderful news. What did you find?" Dr. Markham explained. "The preliminary data shows that the treatment had a positive effect on the volunteers. We saw significant improvements in brain activity, and there were no adverse reactions. This suggests that the technology could be a viable solution for the deep sleep condition." Lyra felt a surge of relief. "That's fantastic. What are the next steps?" Dr. Markham continued. "We need to conduct more tests to confirm these results and ensure the treatment is safe for broader use. We also need to prepare for a larger-scale implementation. We're planning to start with a small group of volunteers who will receive the treatment over a longer period to track its effectiveness." Lyra nodded, feeling a sense of determination. "I'll help in any way I can. I'll also inform the villagers about the progress and the next steps." Later that day, Lyra held a meeting with the villagers to update them on the results from Ritual Day. The crowd gathered in the central square, their faces reflecting a mixture of hope and curiosity. "Thank you all for coming," Lyra began. "I have some exciting news to share. The demonstration of the new technology was a success. The results showed significant improvements, and we're optimistic about the future." The crowd murmured with excitement. Lyra continued. "Dr. Markham and his team will be conducting further tests to confirm the treatment's effectiveness. We're starting with a small group of volunteers who will receive the treatment over a longer period." The villagers listened intently, their faces brightening with hope. Many of them had been directly affected by the deep sleep condition, and the news of a potential solution was a welcome relief. Jarek, one of the villagers, spoke up. "This is wonderful news, Lyra. What can we do to support the effort?" Lyra smiled, grateful for the support. "We need volunteers for the next round of tests. If you or anyone you know is interested, please let us know. Your participation will be crucial in helping us move forward." The meeting ended with a renewed sense of hope. The villagers were eager to support the effort and contribute to finding a solution. Lyra felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that the community was coming together to support the new technology. Over the next few days, Lyra worked closely with Dr. Markham and his team to prepare for the next phase of testing. They selected a group of volunteers from the village who would participate in the extended treatment program. The volunteers were informed about the process and what to expect, and they eagerly agreed to take part. The lab was once again busy as the scientists set up for the extended tests. The new treatment was administered to the volunteers, and their progress was closely monitored. Lyra was present during the sessions, providing support and answering any questions the volunteers had. As the weeks passed, the results continued to be positive. The volunteers showed noticeable improvements, and their condition seemed to be stabilizing. Dr. Markham and his team were encouraged by the progress and continued to refine the technology based on the feedback and data collected. One evening, Lyra met with Dr. Markham to discuss the latest results. "The extended tests are going well," Dr. Markham said. "We're seeing consistent improvements in the volunteers. It looks like the technology is on track to becoming a viable solution for the deep sleep condition." Lyra felt a wave of relief and hope. "That's amazing news. What are the next steps?" Dr. Markham replied, "We'll continue monitoring the volunteers and collecting data. Once we're confident in the treatment's effectiveness, we'll start planning for a broader implementation. It's important that we proceed carefully to ensure the safety and success of the treatment." Lyra agreed. "I'll keep the villagers informed about the progress. They're excited and hopeful, and it's important that they know we're making strides." As the days turned into weeks, the sense of hope in Xarion continued to grow. The success of the new technology had brought a renewed sense of optimism to the village. The deep sleep condition, which had once seemed insurmountable, now appeared to be on the path to resolution. Lyra felt a deep sense of accomplishment and hope for the future. She knew that the journey was far from over, but the progress made so far was a testament to the dedication and collaboration of everyone involved. The future of her people seemed brighter than ever, and she was ready to continue working toward a solution that would benefit all. A brighter future. The days turned into weeks, and the village of Xarion was abuzz with anticipation. The new technology, which had once been a distant hope, was now showing promising results. The extended tests were proving successful, and the deep sleep condition was gradually being brought under control. A sense of optimism filled the air, and the villagers looked forward to a future that seemed brighter than ever. Lyra woke up early one morning, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Today was a significant day. Dr. Markham and his team were preparing to share their final report on the technology's success. The villagers were eager to hear the results and learn about the next steps. As she made her way to the central square, Lyra thought about the journey that had led them to this point. From the initial crisis to the breakthrough and the subsequent testing, it had been a challenging but rewarding experience. She was proud of the progress they had made and hopeful about the future. At the central square, the villagers had gathered for the big announcement. The area was decorated with banners and flowers, creating a festive atmosphere. Lyra joined Dr. Markham and his team on the stage, where they were ready to present their findings. Dr. Markham stepped forward, his face reflecting a mix of relief and satisfaction. "Thank you all for coming. We have completed the extended testing of the new technology, and I'm pleased to share the results with you." The crowd quieted, their eyes fixed on Dr. Markham. Lyra felt a surge of anticipation as she waited for the news. Dr. Markham continued, "The extended tests have shown remarkable results. The treatment has consistently improved the condition of the volunteers, and we have not observed any adverse effects. This confirms that the technology is effective and safe." A wave of relief and joy swept through the crowd. Lyra could see the smiles on the faces of the villagers, many of whom had been directly affected by the deep sleep condition. The news was a beacon of hope for them. Dr. Markham added, "We are now ready to begin a broader implementation of the treatment. This will involve scaling up the process to reach more individuals who need it. Our goal is to ensure that everyone affected by the deep sleep condition can benefit from this breakthrough." The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the square. Lyra felt a deep sense of accomplishment and gratitude. The hard work and collaboration had paid off, and the future was looking brighter than ever. After the announcement, Lyra took a moment to speak with the villagers. Many of them expressed their excitement and gratitude for the progress that had been made. They were eager to see the treatment become widely available and were hopeful about the positive changes it would bring. Jarek approached Lyra with a smile. "This is amazing news, Lyra. It feels like we're finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel." Lyra nodded, her eyes shining with hope. "Yes, it's been a long journey, but we're getting there. I'm so proud of what we've accomplished together." As the days went by, The process of scaling up the treatment began. The scientists and medical teams worked diligently to ensure that the new technology was implemented efficiently and safely. The villagers continued to show their support, volunteering to help with the distribution of the treatment and spreading the word about its benefits. Lyra remained actively involved, coordinating between the scientists and the community. She ensured that the villagers received accurate information about the treatment and addressed any concerns they had. The sense of unity and collaboration was strong, and it was clear that the entire village was invested in the success of the new technology. One evening, as Lyra sat by a window in her home, she reflected on the journey they had been through. The challenges they had faced and the progress they had made were a testament to the strength and resilience of her people. The future was now filled with promise, and she felt hopeful about what lay ahead. The deep sleep condition, which had once seemed like an insurmountable problem, was now being effectively managed. The new technology had brought a sense of hope and renewal to the village, and the prospect of a healthier future was within reach. Lyra knew that there would still be challenges to overcome, but she felt confident in the ability of her people and the scientists to address them. The collaboration between the Xarians and the humans had proven to be a powerful force for change. As she looked out at the stars, Lyra felt a deep sense of gratitude and optimism. The journey was far from over, but the progress they had made was a significant milestone. The future of Xarion was bright, and she was excited to continue working toward a better life for her people. The village of Xarion was on the path to a new beginning, and the promise of a brighter future was a source of inspiration and hope for everyone. The combined efforts of tradition and innovation had created a powerful synergy, and Lyra was proud to be a part of it. With each passing day, the sense of optimism grew stronger. The new technology had not only brought hope, but also strengthened the bond between the villagers and their allies. The future was full of possibilities, and Lyra was ready to embrace them with confidence and determination.